Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Sound of Sirens podcast. I'm one half of your host, Larry Frederick, and this is an important announcement. This podcast contains explicit material that isn't recommended for young audiences, such as language and depictions of graphic nature, so listener discretion is going to be advised. Keep in mind that the views and opinions of this podcast are that of the host and do not reflect the views of the guests, affiliates, or sponsors of the show in any way, shape, or form. Also, please remember that the individuals mentioned on this show, regardless of involvement, are to be considered innocent until proven guilty in court. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's start the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Sound of Sirens podcast. As always, I'm one half of your host, Larry Frederick.
I'm Brian Miller.
And we're going to do this intro very fast before we introduce our guest for this evening as we cover the case of Miss Kylie Hartman out of Shreveport, Louisiana. First and foremost, as always, we want to thank our sponsors, So Crafty, for all of our merchandising efforts for the Sound of Sirens podcast, and LeBron's Creole Cuisine, located in Westwego, Louisiana. Loving every bite. If you're ever in the area, look them up, pay them a visit, mention the podcast. You get 10% off of your total purchase. It's a win-win.
Yes,
so,
it is.
Thank you again for our continued sponsors and our top fans for the week. Since we started on the Daniela Vian case,
Yep.
Miss Shauna Hayden, who has been our guest for the last, 3 episodes?
Yep.
She is the top fan, so we want to give her a nice round of applause.
Thank you, Shauna.
Also, the Alabama Cold Case Advocacy Group.
Tough word, ain't it?
Yeah. My public school education here on the West Bank did not serve me well, sir. Also, we have Mr. Mike Biggs Sr. And last but not least, we have Mr. Matthew Lazara.
That Matthew is just a steady listener.
Always.
Yes.
All right, so without further ado, we are going to place a phone call to our interview guest and have her introduce herself. Again, we are covering the case of Miss Kylie Hartman out of Shreveport, Louisiana. So stay put. We'll be right back. All right, we are back with our guest. I'm going to jump right into it. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the people and give them your relationship to Kylie?
My name is Daisha Brazil.
Yeah, I know it's hard.
Take your time.
And I'm Kylie Hartman's mother.
All right. First, I want to thank you for toughing it out and coming on. I know it's not an easy thing to talk about. Again, I told you in messages earlier, I have 2 kids. I could not imagine going without either one of them for as long as you have. Our goal is to simply bring new eyes and ears to Kylie's case and try to provide some answers for not only you but your entire family, her friends and family. And we won't stop until that's done. Unfortunately, with this situation, I've done some research into it, and it's not a whole lot of information leading up to that day. But if you could, and again, we're moving at your pace, take your time. Can you describe Kylie and how she was, what she was into, or anything like that? Just kind of give us a background on the person that Kylie is.
She was beautiful, full of life. She was my best friend, not just my daughter, but my best friend. She did have, some troubles. But she was trying to work through it and do better.
Yes, ma'am. And how old was Kylie?
She was 21.
Okay, so when all this took place, she was 21, and y'all are from Shreveport, correct? Or are y'all like from there, or did y'all end up moving there at some point, or what's the story there?
We ended up uh, moving out here after we lived in Arizona, and
Okay,
I got a divorce, and I moved out here. I went to school out here when I was younger
okay,
in Shreveport,
okay.
Went to high school?
middle school, and
Oh,
some of
okay.
high school.
Okay.
All right. So I don't know if we told you we're based out of New Orleans, so we're just a little bit south.
Hmm.
So and I'm very familiar with the Shreveport area. Um, I'm familiar with the area that the bar is located at and all of that. So I'll be able to provide a little bit of description on that as well. Um, so Kylie attended high school in Shreveport. Like what age did y'all move here?
She went to Southwood her senior year.
Okay. Okay. What kind of things was she into? I mean, was she involved in a lot of outside activities or you know?
Uh, that's tough.
Obviously, she was your typical teenage female, probably,
Yeah, yeah, she was.
and then as after graduation, did she go to college, trade school, or she just went right into the workforce?
No, she just got in a little bit of trouble.
Well, you did say when we spoke before, you said you did want to clarify a couple things, and we're gonna get there when we start to actually talk about the events surrounding that day. Um, but there was something that there was something that we talked about before that you said you wanted to clarify, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. I know the missing date, the missing date from the flyer that we ended up posting. What you said
Yes,
was the wrong day.
right. That was actually the day that I filed the missing persons report,
Mm,
September 10th. Um, it was actually sometime the end of August,
right. Yeah, I think you said like August 26th, I believe it was.
between the 26th and 28th.
Right.
Out of out of curiosity, Miss Station, did the from the day of her missing and the day you did the report, was that because the police said based on her age or something? Is that why the report took so long, or is that when you just realized, okay, I haven't heard from her?
Well, it was, I knew her phone, I think her phone ran out of minutes on the 26th. I talked with her on the 25th,
Uh huh.
and I think the 26th her phone ran out of minutes. And then one of my friends that had seen her at that bar,
Mm,
she used her ex-boyfriend's phone to text him. I believe it was the 26th or the 27th. I'm not positive on the date.
Okay.
all right.
And that's pretty much the last I've known of anybody talking to her, really.
So did she live alone? Did she live with you?
She was staying with a friend,
All right. And did she drive or was she kind of riding with other people?
riding with other people.
All right. Just trying to get some backstory on on a few things because I know after looking into it, not to jump too far ahead, but the ex-boyfriend was significantly older than Kylie was and dabbled in real estate and may have had some properties um, that could be linked to some other stuff. But
Yes.
so she was staying with a friend, riding with friends, so she didn't have her own means of transportation. The night that she went, or we suspect she went missing, was she out with friends, or did she go out alone? Was that something she typically did, or do you know?
She was with her ex-boyfriend and a couple other friends. They were seen together at his house, and she was also seen out front arguing with a girl.
So there was an argument out front.
Yes.
All right. So I mean, I guess we could dive right into
I'm
it because of the limited amount of
right.
information. The night she went missing, she was at a bar with her ex-boyfriend and some friends, and you said there was an altercation that took place outside,
Well, it wasn't
or
like
like
an
an
at the bar.
argument.
It was at her ex.
Oh,
It
it
was
was
at
at
her
the
ex
house.
The
boyfriend's
house, yeah.
house.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there
At
was
the
an argument
house,
at a
they were
house.
all at the house.
Okay,
I don't know if it was the same day they were seen at the bar together.
Okay.
They weren't there very long because one of them didn't have their ID, so they had to leave.
okay,
And then
um,
I guess they went to his house.
okay. So for some specification, do you know how much older her ex-boyfriend was than her? I know it was listed on the page, but
He is, let me think. He's a couple years younger than me.
yeah, I think
At the
He's
time,
in his 40s.
I was going to
yeah.
say, I think at the time it said something like he was 37 to her 21.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so
And I want to
37
tell you
to
while we talking. This is Brian again. Regardless of any, and you said it earlier that she had gotten in trouble. Regardless of any trouble she got into, does matters least to me. We still are vested in wanting to bring solvency to this, and she deserves justice, as does anybody. But
absolutely.
I want you to know,
Thank you so much.
I want you to know that there's, and it's just, I have a brief experience in law enforcement, um, so I don't want you to get upset with some of the questions I may ask. It's just to get the information so that we can get it out there.
Right, and
Right.
And
in
it
no
and
way are we gonna paint her
right,
negatively, or even say that she's a negative person
right.
for any of the things. I mean, everybody's got a past.
No,
Everybody's done things that we're
Right.
not proud of, and like you said, that doesn't, her having any kind of trouble doesn't constitute her not having a fair look into this case.
correct. And it's nothing that I ask you is meant in a disrespectful way. So I just want you to understand that, and I try to tell everybody that we talk to. You know, we've got a couple other cases we've been involved in, and I my true concern is let's get the answers regardless of anything. But I just want you to understand I may have a question that you might take a deep breath at first, but it's
Right,
and
right.
I'm sure some of the questions I ask have probably already been asked, Daisha, but it's just to bring us up to speed and get the listeners that we have throughout the state of Louisiana and surrounding states to, understand and maybe be able to help us in directions. I'm assuming with just the little that we've discussed right now, those type of things were either asked or at least looked into by the local police, correct?
Correct.
Um, and you don't have to say his name. Is is or was the boyfriend? I heard Larry said something about real estate, but was he like a socialite, influential type person, or was he just a how do you?
A wannabe.
That okay. That's thank you. You gave me a better. I was trying to be politically correct on how I said it. So he pretended to be probably something he wasn't. Correct.
Well, from what the police had said, like it's what he does with the real estate stuff was just barely like legal enough
Okay. Was it?
of his little gig he had going on.
Well, I'm getting ready to ask that. Was the real estate business a front for maybe an illegal business that he was involved in?
I'm not really sure because he perceived himself as like a different person.
Uh huh.
And, hearing other things about him and like involved in, I mean, even down to sex trafficking.
Right, and he did. We're gonna get into that. He did end up after Kylie went missing, getting charged with like molestation of, I believe, a
Of
juvenile.
a, yes.
So we're definitely gonna get
Yeah.
into that. How long did Kylie and this gentleman ultimately date?
Uh, well, it was really kind of off and on
Okay. For
type deal because
uh,
he was actually still married.
right.
So
Well,
I,
imagine that.
I don't know.
So he
Yeah.
was. I mean, they were seeing each other, maybe not really dating, but they had an affiliation to one another for an extended period of time. Was it like over a year?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
How did they meet?
I really don't know how they met. Maybe through some friends.
Yeah. What?
Did you ultimately meet him?
Yes, I did. And he was kind to me.
All right. I mean, as someone that maybe a little bit older, um, he may have presented himself to you, being kind of in your age range, to perceive himself as a nice guy,
Yeah.
to try to maybe win you over or make it
I
you
think
know
I think so. Looking back, yeah, I think so. That's definitely what it was. He put on his charm.
right. So in regard to, I mean, everything that happened that night, can you, to what you know it, can you walk us through the events that took place that night that was explained to you? That way, our audience kind of gets a background into what led up
Well,
to.
well. Before she gets into that, and I know you said you're not sure how they met. What, with her being 21, what kind of work was she doing?
She was not working at the time.
Okay. Um. So at the time she wasn't, but did she ever work in like the restaurant industry, bar industry, anything of that?
She worked at, I think it's Logan's.
That's a steakhouse.
Yeah, Logan Steakhouse.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I'm just what I'm trying to do while you tell you things,
Form
at
an
least trying to,
affiliation.
well, yeah, and maybe give a place that this is where they could have met. Um,
I think it was through friends.
More of a friend thing. Okay.
Hmm.
All right.
Was
So
there, and I know you said she got in trouble, so I'm just going to ask it. Was there illicit drug use?
Yes.
Okay. And listen, I'm not judging by that. I want you to know that it just
Right.
it gives you a little more understanding um, to how somebody can be taken advantage of. And I'm going to tell
and
you to prove to you that I don't care what background anybody comes from. During my time in law enforcement, we actually had, and he ended up being a serial killer, but he was killing prostitutes, and we didn't go into that investigation any different just because his victims were ladies that were working the street. It's still a murder, it's still a missing, and it's still a case. It's somebody's daughter,
Right.
mother, sister. So that's what I'm asking the tough questions, but it means nothing. No disrespect towards her. It just helps you to
Right.
maybe have an avenue to go down to start thinking.
I
So
know that
thank you for being honest
I
there.
know that the issues, from doing a little bit of reading and background that I did, weren't that serious. So what if you are willing? What did she actually get in trouble for?
To be honest, I don't even know. I know the first one. I mean, because it was like all the time with this girl. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Right,
Um, it was like stupid stuff. Like whatever she got in trouble for, like she didn't go to court, so then she would have a warrant for her. You know,
right.
it was stuff like that, that she get in trouble for. But she had actually just gotten out of jail and been out maybe a month or so before this happened, and she was trying to like straighten up and get her son back because she did get him taken away.
Okay, and how old's her child? Oh well, was her
He
child at the time?
oh, he's 6 now.
So he was a
Okay, so he
baby.
was like 1.
Yeah, yeah.
And the father of the child,
Yeah, is he involved or?
No.
So the father wasn't involved, and when the child was removed from Kylie, was it placed in like a foster system or?
Yes.
okay.
Okay, so the child was in the foster system. Do you know if they gave her like an ultimatum to maybe get the child back at a later date or?
Yes, that's what was going on when all this happened.
Right.
Okay, so she was actively trying to get her child back,
Yes.
and it was one of those things where you kind of got to walk that straight line, or
Right.
I mean, I'm gonna just say it like it is. The state, even though the state steps in and they remove children at times from home, the state does not want the burden of raising a child. So
right,
Right.
they try to look for next of kin, somebody within the family that may take the child, and or they give, whether it was Kylie, the mother or the father, the opportunity to straighten out their life, show them some improvement, and then they give them. And I've seen cases where they've given second, third, and fourth chances before they
oh
just
yeah,
like, no, it's not
Right.
going to work. So I understand that part. That I mean, she's got to come out and show some improvement in order to try to get her child, because they even, and it really is a shame on the children's part, um, because there's times they'll let the parents have a visitation, but they just can't leave with the parents. So that's even more
right.
stress on the child.
It's like
Right.
dangling a toy in front of a kid and telling him he
And
can't have it.
I don't want to say that at a year old he knew a lot, but probably a little different because of his age. But still, in all, if she's trying to, step up and do what she's supposed to, good.
Right, and I mean the reason I even asked if you knew exactly what she had gotten in trouble for is we talked about before that being some people's theory is that maybe she left because of the trouble she was in and was just hiding.
Yeah, because there was one when she went to Southwood. She had a pocket knife in her purse,
Right
and
at school. Yeah.
right, and of course they arrested her,
Right.
and the charge was like a weapon or like a gun, weapon, knife, or something like that. And I think people perceived it like she had a gun with her at school,
Right.
and it wasn't that.
So she was still dealing with that
Can I ask you a
amongst.
question? Just because during my time, and we talking a long time ago, I've been out of police work for a while, but during my time in, do you know, was she involved while in school? As the teenager and stuff, was she involved in like gang activity or anything around there?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
She doesn't even honestly. She doesn't even look like she
No,
would.
no, I'm just
But I
asking
mean,
because
yeah,
I
I
know
understand. You got to ask that question.
back in my time, that was Shreveport and Bossier had some issues with some, they used to be called the bottom boys or something to that effect.
Yeah,
So I'm just asking. So okay, she gets that charge. Which was that the first time she was arrested?
yeah,
Okay.
So that stuck. That stuck for a little while.
yeah,
Stuck with
it
it,
did.
and then she kind of. I'm assuming, being at her age, and you said she was kind of unemployed. I know that having to pay certain fees, like legal fees and court fees and all this stuff, adds up, and a lot of people aren't able to make those. And you said that one of the times she was in trouble was for like missing court or something like that. Do you think that had something to do with it? Like she just couldn't make her payments, and it kind of led to that, and that's what added up, or was it a
Y-
separate?
y- Yeah, that, but she had separate ones too, just, getting in trouble.
My, let me ask you this, Mom. When she got arrested for the knife at school, was she a juvenile or considered an adult?
She was considered an adult,
Okay.
So that had to have
That,
happened
right.
when she was at least 17.
She was 17.
17.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah, I know Louisiana's
And
legal age.
I
Yeah,
heard
but funny thing is Southwood just the other day had somebody arrested for a gun, and they went to juvenile.
at 17.
Yes,
Wow.
that's what the news clipping said. I was like, oh, well, okay.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna save my question about police until after we
yeah.
talk about that
I'm,
day, because it seems to be a growing trend. Your Kylie's case is our fourth
yeah.
case that we've kind of deep dove into, and with each of these cases, it seems like there's some really shoddy police work.
Well, I want to ask this.
Absolutely. I'm so furious with them. It's like a circus, you know.
I want to ask you this. And it again, no disrespect. How old are you, Dacia?
I am 44.
Okay. And I'm a little bit older than you, but the reason I ask
All right,
is
go ahead and disclose your age now, boy.
56.
All right.
The reason I
I'm
asked
33, just to put it out
is
there.
because, and even yourself, we just came up in different times than this younger generation, him and those that are younger than him, and what you asking, what did it lead to, maybe she didn't have the money to go for the warrants. But I just find that a lot of these younger generations, and I got some in my family, they just think, let them find me. And it's like, but every time you keep saying let them find you, you go from having one problem to two to
Right,
four
they stack.
and then
Yeah.
it's what was an anthill is now a mountain.
Well,
You just can't
Right.
get them to understand
All
that.
right. I only brought it up because I'm a bail enforcement agent on my side gig. Like I'm a full-time firefighter, but I do a bounty hunting, if you want to call it that. And that's a lot of what we see is just people not going to court, not showing up, not paying the fees because they're just like, you know what, I'm gonna be wanted
Whatever.
regardless.
Right. They just and there is some of that it's like, well, I can't pay it, so if I can't pay the first one, what's the difference if they
But
give me a second one?
That
But it's
leads
still,
me.
right.
That leads me to the first contradiction of that theory of her leaving because of her troubles. Because you said she was actively trying to get her child back. So
Yes.
somebody that's actively trying to get a
Right.
child back is not going to just leave
Right.
under their own fruition. It's going to be, something had to have happened in my eyes, and that's just my opinion. But it's statistically speaking, somebody who is working towards getting a child back or working for a brighter future and actively pursuing a goal typically doesn't just abandon that goal.
Right.
So, can you walk us through, like I was saying earlier, kind of the events that you know it as
When you
for that
contacted
night?
the police and you started doing the
Or
messy
even
stuff.
what you was told happened
Right.
at the bar and all of that. Like, what's the story behind it?
Well, actually, okay, her minutes, I believe, were running out the 26th. So I didn't hear for her, for a few days after. Didn't think, no big deal. If she was going to call me, she would always like use somebody's phone or her phone like on Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until her friend called me, who knows her ex-boyfriend and all that, uh, said she couldn't find Kylie. And then the guy that she had been staying with, he messaged me too about her. And I was like, okay, started getting a little worried.
So
Me and
friends,
Kylie's
not to cut you
friends.
off. So it was the friends who contacted you, and this was like a day after that she was seen at the bar, a week after. How long
Well,
after?
this was probably like 4 or 5 days later
Okay.
that she contacted me and said she can't get a hold of her. I guess she called around to all their friends or whatever, couldn't get a hold of her. And so I think I knew she had been with the ex-boyfriend because me and Kylie's friend got in the car and we drove over to his house and nobody was there. So we left a note on the door. And actually the door was open, so we opened the door and like shut the note in the door to call.
Right.
And I don't think I heard anything And I want to say
Ooh, sorry.
maybe we waited. And then I remember the 10th was the second time we went over there because when we went over there, that note, no, it was it got to be like the 8th or ninth that we went over there and stuck the note in the door because the 10th is when we went over there and there was a whole bunch of stuff on the side of the road that looked like had been removed from the house.
Uh huh.
And that note was still in the door, but you could tell it had been moved because it wasn't the way we placed it in the door. And just seeing all the stuff on the road, I panicked. Kylie's friend panicked, and we went to the police station and filed a report because at that point something didn't feel right.
Okay. So the 8th is when you leave it. The 10th is when you notice that it's at least been handled. We don't know by who, but it's been handled by somebody along with items from inside the house are now outside the house.
Yes.
Okay. When when you chose to go to the police station, go from there. What did they do?
Um, I filed the report and I told them right away that there was a whole bunch of like, I don't know, furniture. I can't even remember all was out there, but it was a bunch of stuff on the curb for the trash. And I told them all that was out there. And, that was the last person I'd known she was with. And I think the next day or within the next couple of days, that's when I got a phone call from a detective.
Okay. Which agency did you go to? Was it a sheriff's department or a PD?
It was Shreveport.
PD.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you said it was a. How long after you filed did the detective called you?
I don't remember if it was the next day or within the next couple of days.
Okay. And what kind of information did he give you or request from you?
Um, I kind of gave him the rundown of you know what I had heard the last person she was with, and they treated it as well. Sometimes when you file a missing persons case, they end up showing up. They could just be laying low,
Hmm.
so it wasn't nothing quick. I don't think.
And let me tell you that's based off of her age, and I'm sure they did some type of. They ran her name and had somewhat of a background on her. That's a, you could say, a universal thing, and a lot of times that is more as like a calming effect to you. Hey, we looking into this, but understand there's times when people make a missing persons report, and because they're involved in things, they go for a couple of days without seeing anybody. And the next thing you know, they show up, and then we'll get
Right.
into now 6 years later, she still hasn't shown up.
Well, my
But
my thing, I guess my question would be, she was staying with a friend. Was it common for her to not go home for days at a time, or
Yeah, because she had been hanging out with her ex-boyfriend.
so the person she was staying with was more than likely just like, oh, okay, well, she's staying over
Yeah.
there, she ain't coming
okay.
home, and
Yes.
and so
Did
you,
the detective say that they were going to, right at that point, actively go out and investigate?
Um, I know they did stop by his house,
Okay.
and he wasn't there, but they left cards there because I had actually spoke to Kylie's ex-boyfriend, and he was acting like, oh, he's trying to help, and he was trying to tell me she's back on drugs and real bad off, and we need to get her to rehab. And I was like, I just saw her. She didn't look like that to me.
and you said he was married, right?
Yes.
So did the wife not live with him, or
Uh, I guess it was kind of like sometimes when they were together and then not. That's a weird
so
story.
they were married, they just weren't like together.
Right.
Okay, so it's one of those things. So she wouldn't. I guess the reason I asked that is to clarify, because if she was staying over there and he was married, then clearly the wife either knew about it and was okay with it, or
Well, I mean,
wasn't
she
present,
she she did know about Kylie.
and she had no
What type of
reserves
attitude
about
did she
it,
have
or
about
what,
that?
you know.
Oh, I think those two bickered before, you know.
Right.
So I know, and again, not to skip, too far ahead, but in the conversations that I've had with you prior to us in this interview, you said after he was arrested for the molestation of a juvenile, after Kylie went missing and everything, and then did his jail time. When he got out, he moved away, correct? Like he no longer is a resident of Shreveport.
Right. He moved to Pennsylvania with his wife's uncle or something like that.
And you kind of alluded that the wife believes that he's to some extent responsible for Kylie going missing, or
Absolutely.
What makes you think he's responsible?
She told me herself she think his mother, before his mother passed away, she told me she thought he had something to do with it.
all right. So let's get into the bulk of the
Yeah, let's
story here.
help me out, Tim.
So
Okay, I was at work one night. I worked at a bar,
Mm-hmm.
and I was at work one night, and this was after Kylie, I filed the missing persons report, and I don't know if it was early October, late September, but we were talking about, Kylie missing and stuff, and this woman had come in and was on the poker machine, and she said she had listened to the story, and she said, "Did your daughter know a guy named Zach?" And I said, "I don't know." And she goes, "Oh, because he's missing, and word on the street for him is that he's gone."
as in
And I was,
deceased.
yes.
Okay.
And I was like, okay. And I didn't think anything of it at first.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was a couple weeks later, I saw something on Facebook with a missing person thing from him in it. And when I saw the dates, it happened to be the same dates. Something in my gut right there just told me that I wonder if they're connected.
Mm.
But
And
we don't know at this point that Zach and Kylie knew each
Well,
right,
other.
well, there was
Okay.
also another
exactly.
girl
At
that
this
they tried to
point,
loop her in with.
right. At this point, I didn't think anything of it, until I saw that flyer. And then Halloween on the news in DeSoto Parish in a shallow grave, Zach's body was found.
Is that the girl you're talking about, Larry?
No. Zach.
Oh, okay.
Zach's body was found.
Okay.
How it was Halloween, but was it the same year or was it the following year?
Same, it was the same year.
So 2018.
Yes.
So we're basically looking at let's say a month and a half from the time he's missing till the time his body's found.
Right. And I even asked detectives if it was connected, and they wouldn't tell me.
So that
They
probably
wouldn't they
because it was
wouldn't
an open investigation still.
Right, right. Yeah, they wouldn't say anything to me about it. At that point, they wouldn't.
So,
Right.
and to your knowledge, there's nothing that would indicate that Kylie knew him, or was there word around that got around that
Well,
they may have been in the same social circle or something like that.
they were, and this was kind of a new group for Kylie with her ex-boyfriend, because the day at the house with the altercation with the girl,
Hmm.
it was Zach. Zach was dating that girl that Kylie had the altercation with.
Oh.
And Steve was there, and I'm not sure who else it was there at that point.
Steve would be the
Yeah.
ex-boyfriend. Okay.
Oh, yeah, the ex-boyfriend, yes.
So that's something I didn't know. I did not know that they directly knew each other. I knew that there was speculation that they ran in the same social circle, but that's new information to me. So if they knew each other and the girl that she was arguing with was dating Zach, then that means that Steve was directly connected to both of them.
Yes.
Mm, okay. Well, that's red flag number one.
Uh,
Uh,
so, well, it was sometime after Kylie had gone missing. There was this other guy who Kylie knew and her ex-boyfriend knew. Like he knew Kylie's ex-boyfriend very well.
Mm-hmm.
They used to hang out together, and he told me a lot of stories about it. But he messaged me one day and said something about Kylie, and I like ignored it. And I was like, why would he ask me that? Well, I waited a whole year later, and his name was brought up in a conversation about this property where Zach was found. And I was like, oh, he messaged me. So I messaged him back and I said, why would you ask me about Kylie? Because everybody knows she's gone and, that her ex-boyfriend did it. And I said, kind of rumors that she might be in Converse. And he said, no, I know exactly where she would be. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, this property, me and him used to hang out on like, I don't know, hunt, camp out there, whatever. And they said that if they ever killed anybody, this is where they would take them. And I said, can you take me to it? And he said, yes. And I had a friend with me, and we had been talking to some agent, and he knew that I was going to meet him, and he wanted me to take my own car, but I just got in the car with him with my friend.
Mm-hmm.
The friend you went with was another female or a male?
It was another female,
Okay.
one of my friends that was with me. And we're driving out there, and he goes, it's a town called Benson. And my friend kind of like nudged me because that's where Zach's body was found. And we get out there, and I'm like high anxiety, panicking because I see an empty field, and I remember, them saying it was an empty field. But we get out and we kind of walk around, and I pin drop my location to that agent, and we did see some bones out there, but I don't know. I think they ended up being animal bones, but I had taken a picture and sent it to him. Well, my phone dies, and my friend's phone dies, and we're coming back through, coming out, coming up to that empty field. And in the woods right before the empty field were all these like little pin flags that had like, like thigh bone and this, and that's where they found parts of Zach. And when you came out, there was a shallow grave, and it still had the police tape. And that was it. That was the spot. He took me to this spot, and that's exactly where Zach was found. So we leave, and the next thing you know, we have like an army of police and undercover agents, like behind us, and they pull us over. And they end up taking us to the station, and we tell them, he brought me out here, and this is where Zach's body was. And nothing ever came of that. I never got a phone call, nothing after that, saying that they searched the rest of the area, nothing.
The agent that you was communicating with, was he part of the team that took y'all down?
No, it was an agent my friend had been talking to that I don't know if he was a Fed agent from here or what.
Right.
But because our phone had died, he had alerted those cops out there to like where we were at.
Okay.
So it was like one of them things like, listen, I don't know if something happened to him. We need
Right.
to get out
Right,
there.
because our phone died and get out there.
Okay.
So did they, during the time that they stopped you, did they question you? Because you said the shallow grave still had tape around it, right?
Right.
Okay. So did they ask you or comment on anything in regards to that still being an active crime scene?
No.
And you told them like, hey, listen, we were led out here by somebody
Right.
because they said it. It had a
Yes.
direct
Okay, you
meaning
told
They
to
them the same thing
questioned
you
so.
told
all
us.
three
Okay.
of us separate. Yes, they questioned us all. I even showed them the messages where he said that to me. I know where it would be, this property.
And was that property listed to him as being involved in real estate, or was it something that they like
No,
a
I think it
camp?
was like a friend of the family, longtime family or something like that.
The When y'all went out there with this guy, how long was it that Zach had been found from when y'all went out there?
Oh, I know it had been well over a year.
Okay, so it's a year late. Zach's
Maybe
found.
maybe 2 years later.
Okay, so Zach had been found. Did that make the news there locally?
No.
So Zach's body, I mean, the recovery of Zach's remains were not.
Oh, when he was found initially, yes,
Okay,
it
so there
was.
was a news report and stuff on that.
Yes, there was.
And then it's a year or two later that this guy then brings y'all back out there.
I know it had to be maybe 2, possibly 3 years later.
So,
I think 3 years later.
I mean, and that's somewhat easy to find out, but let's just say 2021, right?
Right. Yes.
Um, so at this point, y'all stop, they question you, you tell them what's going on. We obviously dealing with a 3 to 4 year time span of when Kylie went missing, and now you're out doing this and getting attacked. What has gone on with the police? What have they done as in regard to the investigation?
With that, I have absolutely no idea. Nobody ever contacted me to. They were supposed to search the property, but I
Not just
never
in
heard
regards to
anything.
that, in regards to just Kylie missing. I mean,
Oh,
yeah,
Kylie's case,
yes,
that is from Shreveport Police Department. Well, I had a detective who seemed like he was working really hard, and I guess another cop was brought in um, from another part of the department
uh huh.
because he knew somebody who had information that he was giving him, so he was brought in. And everything seemed like it was going well. Like they knew who was involved even after the fact. They had names and stuff of people who, you know, were somehow tied into this because there was like 5 or 6 people. And they did tell me that Zach's case was connected. And they
So
thought that they were going to start making arrests, and then all of a sudden, one of the cops gets arrested for like stealing time, and then the main detective on the case, he was acting kind of strange with me, and I know it had to have been like could have been a year, maybe 8 months. He told me, well, they moved me to the sex trafficking unit, but I still, work on Kylie's case when
I'm
I
sorry.
can. And then, I don't know, then not long ago, I see him on Facebook and he's like a community liaison officer, like in uniform. Like,
Have you tried to make any contact with the police department to see where the status of the
well,
case?
since all that happened, like with that, like when the cop got arrested and the other detective, I don't know, wherever they sent him to, wherever, I never heard a word. And I tried to call up there and speak with like a supervisor in the missing department, persons department,
Right.
and nobody ever called me back.
So my question would be: you said that they confirmed that Zach and Kylie's cases were related.
Yes.
How did they confirm that without? I mean, clearly they found Zach, but Kylie's still missing. How would they declare those two related without you
I
know?
guess when they spoke with the neighbors at her ex boyfriend's house and they were all seen there together.
Mhm. So
And
they're just kind of related by association. They just kind of know that, hey, okay, they ran in the
right.
same social circle. That he happened to go missing around the same time, so we're gonna go ahead and assume that it could potentially be associated with each other.
Can
Right.
let me ask you this. I don't know if you know or if it was on the news when they said, did they give a cause of death to Zach?
I don't know if they could tell.
Okay.
I'm I don't think so because I was close with Zach's father, and he just passed away recently.
All right.
And did he feel that the cases were linked?
Oh yeah, I mean, just from things that we have been told and been told from other people that were kind of around after the fact that were in question.
Right. What about the girl that she was having the argument with that was Zach's girlfriend at the time? Do we know where she's at?
Uh, she's here around. She's been in and out of jail, and they've spoke with her, and
I guess the better question is, have they ever declared any persons of interest in either one of those cases, whether it be Kylie's case or Zach's case?
no.
So they've never come out and said, "Listen, we're gonna actively investigate this guy based on the information that we received," or
Oh,
this
yeah,
girl.
absolutely, they did. There were five of them. It was her ex-boyfriend. It was Zach's girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
and it was another guy and another girl because she had a little red car, and they were seen in the car together.
That night, or
Both stories.
just recently?
Both stories because from my end that night, because from my end I had heard, a rumor that Kylie was in a red car, and then the same thing on Zach's case too. That was rumored too.
Do we know who the other guy and girl are?
Yes, they have been talked to.
Did they voluntarily do it, or was it something that they went out and found him?
Well, the girl, they went out and found her. The guy, I think he talked because I talked with him too, and he has given some graphic story
A graphic story is in about Zach or about Kylie?
about Kylie,
In what sense? Like related to?
of how she was killed.
So he's saying he knows for a fact she was killed.
Wait, I gotta.
Yeah, we gotta
Getting a
pause
little.
that.
I'm getting a little confused here. This guy gives graphic details on the apparent murder of Kylie, and
Right.
but yet, okay, who's
But
telling
but
you
this
this?
I don't know exactly what his story was to the cops,
Right.
but Zach's dad and my friend had him over, and because he was supposedly best friends with Zach,
Okay.
and his dad actually held a pistol to his head, but he said he had like three different stories, like on totally what happened that night. But they had I have a recording of him saying how she was like, how the ex-boyfriend like strangled her.
Okay. Did you give that recording to the police, or somebody give it to the police?
Yeah, we have recordings, but I mean it, and I mean even Steve's mom went to the police and said, and like it's hearsay. Like I don't understand what's going on.
All right. I guess my point would be here, and I say this in all the cases that we've done, all four. There's three things when it comes to like investigations. There's what we know, there's what we think, and then what we can prove. The hearsay part, if the police are telling you that's hearsay, that's more of a in court thing. It doesn't mean that they wouldn't go out and investigate and
Right.
question.
To me as an investigator, that's a
Right.
lead. That's
I'm
not.
gonna, right. I'm gonna go at least check this out to where either I nip it in the butt and know there's nothing to it, or okay, this is something that we can further along, because with a missing person slash possible homicide. Because
I mean, at this
that's
point,
the
we
information
have
that we're
no
giving out.
idea.
That we got definitely one with Zach. We could have a second homicide or murder
But
Kylie.
that's to say they classified Zach's as a homicide.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm going off of what we're being told. So somebody should be like,
Now they did check a property. The red car that I was talking about, the girl that
right?
had that car, they did check her property. Um,
Oh, and I wonder what lead they were following to assume that that property was linked to anything, or was it just
You saying they checked her property? Are we talking like her house, or
they
she owned
they
land too?
the house and the land.
Okay.
They had brought the dogs out there.
Okay.
All right, so I want to ask this before we get any further. To date, as of today's date, what is the classification on Kylie's case? Is it unsolved cold? Is it active?
Unsolved cold case.
Okay, so it is cold. They're not actively investigating.
Not to my knowledge.
Have you done any public records requests asking for copies of reports so that you can see where it stands at?
No, but my friend told me I needed to do that.
Yes, I'm telling
We
you.
we will do that for you if you would like.
I think let's
Yes.
listen. Not that we won't.
But yeah, you
I
need to
think
do it
you
because
need
you're
to
kin.
do it because you're next of kin. Okay, you
Okay.
But if you don't get answers,
right. If you don't get answers,
let
or
us
you
know.
start getting stalled, or you're running into brick walls, get back and listen. Tonight is just the first step. We expect you to keep communication open with us so that we can help you as best we can. But go to and every even though we're both in the state of Louisiana, every jurisdiction is different. So I'm gonna assume that you can go directly to the police department. They should have records division, and or they would direct you maybe to missing persons. But ask for, and if you have an attorney or a friend that's an attorney, sometimes you can get them to ask for it, and it might be speeds up the process. But there's probably a fee that you'll have to pay, and it could be anywhere from 25 cents to $1 something for
a page,
a
or
page
something like
up
that.
to so many pages, and see what they'll give you. That way, it kind of helps us and you to know where it stands
And what was
what
done.
information they had and what they did with that information, and then that kind of tells us, because even if I would think even if this ex-boyfriend is
Right.
involved in, let's say, a bigger sex trafficking thing or drug thing than just the Zach and Kylie incident. If it's bigger than that, they would have still made some type of arrest or done something within 6 years. I just can't see them, letting it go. And understand this, I'm not telling you that there aren't issues and problems and mistakes made in investigations. I just, having been a policeman, all of my family was in law enforcement. I truly am a police and supporter of the police, and believe that we do have good men and women out there that do the job. There's also,
Bad
pardon
ones.
the way I say it, bad ones or shitheads. I do understand that. But let's
Yeah.
give them the chance to issue. Let's get you to do the public records request. See what all they'll give you. Even
Yeah.
if they give you what's termed redacted information, such as like names. Maybe there's a name they don't want you to know. That's okay. We want the information on where this investigation either stalled,
I want to know
stopped,
who did what,
or what,
and
right.
when they did it.
And then that helps
Right.
us to go and listen. Shreveport's not all that far. If there's
Right.
anything we can do, we will. And even if you get in touch with us, whether we do it through doing another episode or you strictly go back and forth with us in emails, I'll at least try to, tell you what avenues to take.
Right.
Okay.
But we definitely want to give them the opportunity. Because you said it was pardon the language, but shitty police work. Is it
Yeah.
is it shitty police work because there hasn't been a solving of the case? Could be.
No, I feel like what happened, something happened. Like when all that happened, it's just like everything fizzled out and didn't hear word.
And I'm not disagreeing with you. That's what I'm saying. Is it because there's
Right.
no
I mean,
solving?
it could have got lost in translation.
It could have.
It's,
And
you
then
know.
why? Okay, so Detective A got transferred to public relations. Somebody should have taken over the case.
Right.
You know,
Even if it's cold,
right.
and look, there's
How-
there's more of an avenue to having something done with Kylie's case as opposed to, for example, our last case that we covered,
Right.
automobile. That there was a body recovered in that case,
Right.
so an undetermined cause of death held everything up because when something's classified undetermined, they can't make a move until a detective gets another lead. With Kylie's case, she's still actively missing.
Right. We haven't.
There's
right.
nothing that's turned up. So
See, but what I didn't understand is they told me, like I guess at first, they were supposed to be making arrests, and then it was like tough. They were like, well, we need a body to make an arrest, but they had
Bullshit.
Zach's body, so why wasn't an arrest made on that?
Listen,
right, and saying that they were connected.
I don't know how much like you with this if you've ever read true crime stories or watch it on TV and not like Blue Bloods where in an hour they solve every crime. I'm
Yeah,
talking
like First
about
48
like First 48.
Right.
I don't know how much interest you have in those things. Is it a whole lot easier to solve a case and go to court on we'll call it a murder, when you have a victim? Yes. But have there been arrests made without it? Sure. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they're not trying to find so that it just solidifies their case more. Could be. That's why we want the public records request. It explains more. It gives more of an answer. Right now, all three of us are sitting here with like, okay, we got all these questions, but we have no answers because we don't know what the answer is. And nobody that potentially has the answer is willing to give it to us. So the public records request is very important on that.
Mm-hmm.
If in fact it's linked, a Zach and a Kylie, and obviously there is some linkage there because we've had enough people say that all these people were in the same place at the same time, and then two of those people are missing and happen to be missing from the same place and same time.
The immediate person of interest has to be the people that they were with.
And everybody that last seen Zach is the same people that last seen Kylie, at least from where we're standing at.
Well, and then too, at that time when they had gone missing, sometime after that, the ex-boyfriend, his truck he had, I don't know if it got repoed or wrecked or something like that, and they didn't have it. But I know that the police tracked it down, but by the time they found it, I think it was in Arkansas and had been like stripped and everything else.
Right. So, I mean, just some of the information you're giving me leads me to believe, and I'm not there, Daisha. I'm definitely not in your shoes. So you have experienced a lot more in this than the 50 minutes that you and I have talked. Everything you're telling me leads me to believe that they're exhausting all the avenues that they can, or that they could have back then. Now we need to know where we're at today.
Yeah, I need to know. I need to know what investigation has been done to this point. That way, you have a starting point to continue.
And listen, I know it's tough. But yeah. I'm gonna. Sometimes Larry gets a little mad at me. I'm gonna just ask you this: have faith, and every chance you get, and you may already be doing it, pray, and we're gonna continue praying that we get the answers we need so that we can move forward and bring, Kylie home.
That's what gets me through is my faith and praying.
And every day. And I know it's tough. Like I said, I'm not in your shoes. I've lost family members. I only have one daughter. I do have 8 kids that call me Pawpaw, and I can only imagine how I would be if something happened to any one of them. So I don't want you to give up. You pray every day, and I'll pray for you and with you anytime you want. But
Thank you.
let's get the
I
public record request out.
yeah.
Promise me you're going
Okay.
to do that within the next
I
week.
promise I will.
And
Or
can
whenever you can.
right
I mean,
and whenever you
Okay.
can, but let's try to get it, within the next week. You stay in contact with Larry through the email, and it's to both of us when you go back and forth. He's a little
well,
bit better.
we've been actually contacting through my personal.
But that's what I'm
Facebook,
saying.
but
He's a little better at that than me. He's
I
more.
do before we wrap up. I
Well-
mean, I don't know what kind of time frame you're looking at. I we like to every case that we do start off with all the information present, some information that may have not been released,
Right.
and kind of rehash the events. That way, it may jog one of our listeners' memories.
Memory.
I mean, we are listened to in 33 different countries and 338 different cities around the world. So we have a very large listener
That's
base,
awesome.
and most of our listeners are from Louisiana.
Yes.
So, and I know that Shreveport has a viewing. So I want to first, before I even move on, put out there, if any of our listeners has any information
Right.
about this case, please contact either our podcast email, sirenspodcastofficial@gmail.com, contact Shreveport Police Department. I don't care who you contact, but if you
Right.
know if you know something about this case, please
you
do
know
the
it-
right thing.
If you know it, show it.
But in saying that, after all is hashed and all is talked about, we like to talk theoreticals.
Well, before you go to that part, and I do have this I wanted to say. One, Daisha, have you told people that you were coming on here?
Yes.
Okay, so that helps because
Yeah,
we want them.
actually, I believe it's your sister, Shannon.
Yes.
She's
he's
been
great.
in contact with me quite from honestly more than Deja has.
But what I want is to know that she's put this out so that
Oh yeah,
that in itself, the fact that you're saying I'm going on a podcast to talk about Kylie, that draws an interest.
when and continuing that, when's the last time that any media has covered this case? How long has it been since it's actually been discussed?
Oh man. Since after it happened.
Okay,
So it's been a while.
so we're
Yes.
dealing with 4 or 5 years easy.
Right.
And see, sometimes this is what it takes, is what we always say. This rehashes it and reopens it up. It might even get somebody that listening to
Right.
have a guilty conscience and start making calls. So
Right.
that's what we want. But aside from you, my question to you is, how big is the Shreveport Police Department?
could
I think
probably
they're
answer that.
low. I don't think they have enough.
They've had
Oh well, that is
they had a big layoff.
okay, but that's a case
Recently,
across the
but-
country that there's
yeah.
a shortage of police. But because what I'm saying is we want to. I'm just trying to put to, like she said, well, they transferred this guy and now he's doing this. This should still be, as the old saying goes, next in line steps up.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they starting or have started a cold case division, which sometimes they'll take 2 older guys that might be getting close to retirement. They let them go
Yeah.
over some old cases. And I'm not. When I was doing all this, I didn't mean that we had to stop tonight. We can. I'm here for however long you want to stay on the podcast and get the information out. I just think it's very important that we try to get more information.
Yeah, we
It's-
definitely need that.
Yes. Is there any, like, what we've talked about tonight? Is there anything that you know and you just haven't said and you want to add to?
Or
to
you would
this?
like, because like I told you, we got all our information from uncovered.com. Uncovered.com basically gave us a series of events and a timeline of leading up to the disappearance and the people that was involved. That's ultimately how I found out who you were and was able to
Right.
reach out to a family member. And we like to get a family member's blessing to cover a case before we
Right.
even talk about it, because we know some wounds just don't need to be reopened.
Right.
Yeah,
But
it's hard.
this definitely needed. I feel like it was fate. We stumbled upon it. It stood out, and it's. I don't like
And
to
I
see
appreciate it.
anybody. I really don't like to see anybody going
Right.
this long with no answers. It's a shame. And
I
we
feel like I'm at a dead end.
You probably have gone through every range of emotion that there is out there.
Absolutely.
And just by your opening
yeah we. I mean we
mood
definitely
when you
got the
first
emotion.
started, we definitely caught the emotion. And listen, I of the two of us, I would tell you that I'm probably even a very emotional person, because I'm just a caring person. If you hurt, I hurt, and
Yeah.
so we want to bring the closure to this. And if we can not hopefully uncover shitty or shoddy investigation is what we hope for, but ultimately I want to know where she's
just
at,
want
what
answers.
happened, and I want you to get. I don't believe there's ever closure.
Nah,
I really don't. But
This,
You can't.
right,
I can't have any peace at this because I
right,
don't know where she's at. Like after it happened, my girlfriend had printed out a picture and framed it of Kylie, one of Kylie and one of me and Kylie, and I couldn't put it up for 2 years. It sat on my dining room table because I just couldn't bear to look at the picture every day because it would make me cry.
right.
right.
And then finally, I put it up one day, but it took me 2 years to try and do that.
Well, and no matter what, um, your your probably vivid memory of her is your baby girl,
Right, and
and
on top of
and
that, you said she was your best friend, and
right,
a lot of people never
Yeah, there's
never
so many
get to
times
have that.
I just want to pick up the phone and call her because
right,
something happened or you know
understandable.
and I can't.
Well, we're gonna definitely do our best
Yeah, we're
with
definitely gonna try to get some answers for you and
I
everybody that was
appreciate it
vested.
so much.
you and your sister keep in touch with us about the public record thing.
All right, so
Absolutely.
yeah, before we wrap up, like I said, we like to talk about theoreticals. What are I mean, has there been any theories formed by either you or I mean, we said that a lot of people thought that the ex was guilty, but what's some possibilities that aren't out of the realm of that could have happened that you may have think
Well,
happened?
one theory I heard is when they were all together, Zach and Summer and Steve, and that Zach had like 10 grand on him. I think he was doing a drug haul or something.
So that
And
was a drug related issue.
yes, from just one thing that I heard.
So that would have been motive for somebody to take advantage of knowing that. And
Maybe Zach, but I don't know where Kylie came into play with that.
right, especially because I mean she was seen having a disagreement or an altercation with Zach's girlfriend.
Yes.
So I mean I guess you could probably tie that into Steve may have found out that Zach had that on him, wanted to capitalize on it, made it known to Kylie, and Kylie was kind of involved by association.
It's strange because you at least have the four of them there. Like what? How? I'm trying to just. My mind has just gone like, how did it go down? What could have happened?
Right.
Where their two kind of like significant others are gone.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
And there were speculations too that about Zach and Kylie, but I don't believe that.
right. I mean, ultimately, what do you believe in your heart? Do you believe that she's still out there, or do you kind of have it in your head that something happened and then it's just it's hidden?
That, I do have my hopes, you know,
Right.
uh, but I know,
I
it's
mean,
not that she's out there somewhere because it had been rumored too that they had moved her body.
right, and that kind of correlated with them telling you what supposedly happened to her, and
Right.
she could have possibly been in the same area as Zach and then moved. Um, Man, I mean, all of those theories and all of the possibilities are just disheartening to say the least. It definitely doesn't garner any amount of hope in anyone, and that it's a shame. But so you said Steve. I mean, we know Steve was charged after Kylie went missing with molestation of a juvenile, and he served how many years in jail?
Two.
So he served two.
Which
Go ahead.
which by the way, the charge for the girl,
Mm-hmm.
that was his daughter's half sister.
Is who he molested?
Yes,
Mm. So he serves 2 years on that. And how soon after he was released did he up and move?
I give it a month, if that. He was gone.
Do we know if at all while he was incarcerated, the Shreveport Police Department actually did any kind of investigation as it relates to Kylie to him, or
They did. They went to speak with him, and I went there to see him too, and he talked with me the first time, still saying he didn't know, and he was blaming the girl. He said you need to ask her
mm,
about it. And then there was another guy who was involved after the fact. I went to go see him in jail. And after I went to go see him, I went to go see the ex boyfriend again, and he denied my visit. So I don't know if he knew I went to go see that other guy
yeah,
also.
it kind of sounds like somebody in that group knows something.
Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
because I believe they were in the same pod in the jail.
I mean, the involvement. How'd you say it in our past cases, Brian? The cover up is
Oh, the cover up's always
worse
worse than
than
the
the
crime
crime.
itself. Always.
And God forbid, somebody is partaking in covering up all this information, but it kind of looks like that's the way it's going, and it's a damn shame. I really hope somebody hears this and has a guilty conscience and comes out and comes forward and says something, because that's just a shame. And
Yeah.
Steve's wife, you said, believes that he's guilty.
Yes, I spoke with her too. She got a restraining order against him when he was about to get out of jail. She did a restraining order, and actually Zach's father and myself were the witnesses that signed it.
Really?
Nice.
Yes.
So what, if any, did the wife have a theory about what could have potentially taken place, or was it just kind of those things like, well,
She,
he's guilty of all this other shit, then he's got to be guilty of this
well,
too.
her kind of story with the strangling, because she said he had some kind of, I don't know, leather rope thing he carried around, and with her saying that kind of coincided with what that other guy said.
So in describing what he said was ultimately a murder, he
Right.
he must have described some kind of strangulation,
Yes.
and so the wife said that he carried something that could have been utilized in a strangulation.
Right.
Hmm.
And she had all his stuff too while he was in jail. All his things, and was like, "You're more than welcome to come and go through it and whatever. And there were some old laptops and phones, and I think we asked if the police wanted it, and they didn't want it. I think maybe DeSoto took something, but I don't think they ever did anything with it.
At this point, I'm almost wondering if Shreveport police was looking at it like, okay, listen, I mean, we'll ask this question too, because we asked it on our last case. Do you know how prevalent missing persons are in the Shreveport area? Like, were there multiple at that time, or was it something that kind of took the city by surprise, or?
Um, During that same time, 3 weeks before Kylie went missing, a girl had gone missing.
Right.
Um, and people thought they were together because I did an interview with her mother, and a lot of people, because they did have a lot of the same friends, so a lot of people thought that those two were related, and they absolutely were not
Right.
related at all.
Right, yeah, and
Um,
we had that conversation before about how you didn't want those two cases linked together,
right, because a lot
accidentally.
of people are just under the assumption that Kylie and Crystal Beale's case are connected, and it's like, no, they are not. She went missing 3 weeks before Kylie.
Right.
And her mother's had a heck of a deal too with the police department. She was with the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
She worked for the sheriff's department?
No, that's where she filed through,
Oh,
was
okay.
through Caddo Sheriff.
Man, it really it just goes back to shoddy police work. It's how can you not do a deep dive on any individual that was known to be with her, and if you did, and you was able to come away with the fact that okay, Zach and Kylie's case are absolutely related. We found Zach. I mean, had to have done an autopsy report. Had to have done something to figure out, or try to figure out a cause of death. And if homicide ended up being cause of death, you almost why would they not follow up on that? I just
I don't know, and I don't know if it's because Zach's body was found in DeSoto Parish and I filed in Shreveport, but then
nah. If there was
Caddo
a
Caddo
relation,
Sheriff has also been involved because some of the property that they checked was in Caddo Parish, so it's just
But
a circus.
the
it's frustrating.
Shreveport PD is where you made the report, correct?
Correct.
They're going to be the lead on Kylie's, regardless. Whether it's
Right.
DeSoto Parish comes in and they check here, or Cato goes over and checks property, they're still assisting. There's going to be somebody assigned to it from them, but they're assisting the lead agency, which is Shreveport. So, any if there should be, when you do the public records request, there should be some reports from each of those parishes attached to it. If not, we go to them too. We make public records requests on any reports filed
Right.
with the colleague's name.
I mean, under Louisiana law, we're considered media, so we have certain. I don't want to call them privileges, but they're privileges. Under media clauses, we're able to obtain public record a little bit more easier than the average person. It may be redacted, like Brian said earlier, but we're a little bit easier enabled to get them.
But
Hopefully, you're able to get them,
right.
being next to kin, and that'll just provide all the answers. Well, not answers, but provide us a direction
Mm-hmm.
to go in, and we'll be able to capitalize on that and continue, building these theories or even getting answers based upon that information.
Right.
But that seems to be the next logical step after.
We got to
You
use
know,
it falls under the Freedom of Information Act, FIA.
Yes, that's what my friend called it,
Right.
Freedom of Information Act.
That's exactly what it is. It's a public records request. And he's right. I just think you, as the next of kin, should be able to access everything that's needed. And then when you can't, then we'll step in and see what they'll go with us.
Right.
Okay.
So is there anything we haven't talked about or haven't discussed that you would like to bring up that you feel is pertinent information that needs to get out there, or are you comfortable with trying to get that public records request and then devoting a
Absolutely.
little bit more time to talking to us with the second episode?
Yes.
Okay, let's not plan a second episode yet.
Well, I'm saying, well, once we get
right.
information,
Let's see what she comes back with.
I definitely want you to be in touch.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Personal
I will.
message me. Definitely let me know what the status is on.
Like, let us know
that.
when you filed it, and it's usually let's just say you go Monday, and Monday you actually filed a public records request. Let's not anticipate any type of answer till Thursday, because they got
Okay.
X amount of time that they have to.
Right, they have to review it, and then they'll let you know what they're willing to
You'll
release.
probably get something very quick that just says, we've received your public records request, and we're, by state law, we only have to provide this information or that. So they'll explain it. But let's not, like, get too concerned till after Thursday. If you don't have any response, kind of like Larry did one on the last case we were doing, and we haven't gotten anything.
They
that just
haven't
raises
told us
more
yes,
suspicion.
no, go screw
Right.
yourself, nothing. I mean,
But it's usually 72 hours from the times that I've done public records here in the state of Louisiana. But do that.
Okay.
Keep in touch with us. I will tell you this.
I will. And I am so grateful for you guys. Thank you so much for reaching out.
listen,
I really appreciate it.
I thank you for being strong enough to actually come on and talk about it, because it's one thing for. We could have just used uncovered.com with the information provided there and gave a story and have it be very vague, but you being strong enough to come on as her mother and talk about her and provide us with details that may have not been released to the public or anything of that nature shows your character and shows how strong you are. And I know how difficult it was. I know talking to you prior to the show, you said you may have a difficult time with it, and it's 100% understandable. But we definitely, like we said with our past case with Daniela Vian out of Mobile, you have made a friend in us. Anything that we can do to help you regarding the case or anything you need publicized or shared on social media, if you come up with any new information from now until, as long as we're doing the show, if you need anything, please feel free to reach out. We are here to help you.
Thank you again, and I appreciate y'all so very much.
One thing. Say your first name again.
Daisha.
Okay, Daisha. Listen what I'm going to tell you. From the first time you answered the phone, and it was difficult for you, till now, I see a total different energy in you. Let's keep that energy, and let's go do everything we can and find Kylie and bring some justice to her, you, your family, and let's bring the justice that needs to be brought down on whoever did this. Okay?
Yes.
And my prayers are with you, and let's talk again hopefully next week and get something scheduled.
Week
yes,
soon.
definitely stay in touch.
Thank y'all so much.
No problem at all. Just to wrap this up, again, if anybody out there has any information regarding the Kylie Hartman case, please contact your local law enforcement, whether it be Shreveport PD or any police department in your area. You could contact us at sirenspodcastofficial@gmail.com or contact, I know there's a regional Crime Stoppers for that area. Contact them. There's no worse feeling in the world than not having your child. And I'm just going to go out there and say, if you do know something and you're withholding that information, you're not only hurting a mother, but you're hurting the entire family, and you really need to do the right thing.
Yep.
So with that being said, thank you again, Daisha, for coming on. We look forward to talking to you again. This has been the Sound of the Sirens podcast.
Y'all have a good night.